way as far as the playing side is concerned at the moment, but that can all change. It has changed in the recent past. An 8th place finish after a particularly disappointing end of the season, which saw Spurs managed by 3 different coaches, all of whom became far too reliant on one man who may be leaving. There is a new manager, Ange Postecoglou, and his main task this summer, you'd have thought, is to sort out what is going to happen to Harry Kane. Will he stay at Spurs? Will he go to Real Madrid? Will he go to Manchester United? Or will he go somewhere else? Let's talk to Spurs fan Chris Cowlin, who's on the line now. Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Nick. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I imagine as a Spurs fan, you've had better last 2 or 3 months. Is that fair to say? How are you?
I think it's I think it's fair to say that we've gone round in circles as a football club for the last 4 years. Remember, 4 years ago we were in a Champions League final, and now we're finding ourselves, next season not having any European football for the first time in 13 years. So it has been a very, very difficult season. 3 managers, as you said, but Postecoglou's come in. I think it's a progressive and a positive appointment, if I'm completely honest. I think there's a lot of Spurs fans feeling excited. There are a lot of Spurs fans that are underwhelmed by the appointment. But Postecoglou is very used to being doubted by a lot of fans at previous clubs, and he's turned their opinions round. And Celtic fans at the moment are very disappointed that he's left. But what a job he's coming into, and his to-do list is absolutely huge. First of all, as you mentioned, to try and tie Harry Kane down to the club, to even keep him, beyond the summer and play for us next season, I think is a real priority. A goalkeeper is a priority. Defenders are a priority.
There's a lot of priorities there, Chris.
Oh, I can go on. But we really do need to have a clear out this summer of a lot of players that just simply aren't good enough, that have been at Spurs for too long. He needs to assess the 11 loan players that are coming back. A director of football, we don't have one of those at the moment, and we're flying off to Australia for pre-season in just a month's time. There may be 2.5 months of speculation going on before the transfer window closes, but we do need to get a lot of business done in this window.
I suppose the overarching question is, what do you do? What does Ange Postecoglou, what does Daniel Levy do about Harry Kane? There are basically 2 things you can do here. He either stays or he gets flogged for big money, and it happens early enough for that money to be put to good use. What side of that particular coin do you come down on?
I just can't see Harry Kane leaving the football club.
Really? You really believe that? That's not just hope. That's your genuine belief in what's going to happen.
That is my genuine belief. I can't see him going to Real Madrid. I can't see him going to Manchester United. I can't see him going to any other club. He's certainly not going to go to Arsenal or Chelsea. I can't see him going to any other team in the Premier League. And he wants that Premier League record of Alan Shearer's. There's absolutely no question or doubt about that. But I think that, with his contract ending in the summer of 2024, I think that Harry Kane will be a Spurs player next season. I don't have any doubt about that. Beyond that, I do worry about it because, of course, how do you replace someone like that in the team, bearing in mind that we finished 8th, as you rightly said earlier, scoring 30 goals in 38 Premier League appearances. Scoring that amount of goals in a struggling team.
Yeah. I mean,
unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I mean, I have taken, and you may wish to dispute this, but I have taken to calling Spurs a bit of a one-man team recently, because without Kane, 8th place would have been miles off. He has been the one consistent thread that has held the team together, playing as a number 10 and a number 9, scoring all the goals, providing a great deal of the leadership as well. Because of the other work that needs doing, can you accept perhaps an argument where he has to leave in order to allow the club to kind of regenerate? Or do you think that's just nonsense? Why would you let the best players play for your club for 30 years go?
Yeah, of course, he's our leading goal scorer for England. Of course, why would you ever want Harry Kane to leave the football club? But I do take your point about being a one-man team, because there are so many players in this current team, in this current squad, that aren't good enough. They do need to be moved on. They do need to be replaced by better players. And bearing in mind, this season that's just gone, Heung-min Son underperformed. Bentancur had a really poor injury. Richarlison underperformed. Basuma underperformed, had injuries as well. So there are players there that we know that can do the job, but they're underperformed. So Ange Postecoglou now coming in, he's got to be able to get the best out of these players. But I can't stress enough, Nick, how much of a rebuild that we need this season, because there are players there now that they should have been moved on last year, the year before, or even the year before that. Some of these players now have been managed by so many managers at Tottenham Hotspur, and every transfer window that comes round, all of us fans say, surely these players, X, Y and Z players, have got to go this transfer window. So, Ange Postecoglou has got a huge job on his hands, as I said, and not to mention the players coming back from loan spells, Ndombele, Lo Celso. We paid £100 million for those two. What's going to happen with those? It's going to be very interesting to see if he can integrate any of these loan players coming back. Harry Winks, Sergio Reguilon, Jed Spence, club signing, Antonio Conte said. So it's such a big job for him to come into, but what a challenge for him.
It is. I mean, the way that I've looked at it in the past, and is that team 4 years ago that got you to a Champions League final, because actually that team was riven with injuries, but the first, Pochettino's last great first 11. Every time one of those players has left, the replacement has been a downgrade. If you ask me, Chris, that's been, if you think of Vertonghen and Alderweireld, an absolute Rolls Royce of a back two in their prime, not replaced properly. Same with Moussa Dembele, not replaced properly. Same with the fullbacks, not replaced properly. This can go. Christian Eriksen, not replaced at all. Yeah. There is a Christian Eriksen-shaped hole at Spurs to this day. But anyway, I'm going to throw some names at you, Chris, to see because it's all flying around. We've got a conversation coming up actually with the Athletics Brentford correspondent about David Raya, and that one apparently is on the cards and is moving towards fruition potentially. Is he someone that fills you with a bit of hope and excitement?
Absolutely. Fantastic goalkeeper, can play out from the back. Someone that I feel that would fit in very, very well at Spurs and into Ange Postecoglou's style. That one I really would love to get over the line.
Is there any benefit in Postecoglou going back to Celtic, do you think? Is that a useful source of players at this point for him?
I think there is a quality difference without being disrespectful to them. But I would prefer Premier League experience. So David Raya certainly, and another thing that we've got to sort out. If Hugo Lloris is leaving this summer, we've got to sort out the captaincy. I'm sure if Harry Kane does stay, it will go to him.
If not, who though? I mean, Højbjerg, but he's not exactly pulling trees up, is he?
Exactly. It's about time some of these players really stepped up, and I think that is going to be, Postecoglou in his first couple of weeks before we go away to pre-season, he's got to really look at some of these players and say, who wants to be here, who wants to play for Tottenham Hotspur, and who doesn't want to be here. So it's going to be very interesting to see what players don't get on the plane for pre-season this year.
Harry Maguire?
Not for me.
Might be a captain. There's a captain for you.
Makes too many mistakes in my opinion. Certainly not one for me, no.
But then so do half the rest of the Spurs defenders. I suppose I'm not being glib, it's difficult.
That's true. That's why they need replacing.
Right, no, I take your point, Chris. Absolutely, that is rock solid logic. Jadon Sancho?
I'm not sure about him. He had so much promise, came to the Premier League, hasn't really delivered. I think if you can get him for a good amount of money, perhaps take a punt on him, but I wouldn't be paying big money, no.
And this is not about... You were invited on this programme to talk about transfers, and you've given us some really heartfelt thoughts on this subject, so I appreciate it. However, I've been itching to ask Spurs fans this question since Postecoglou got the job. Do you think he's going to be given a little bit of time, a little bit of leeway that was not afforded to Nuno Espirito Santo? Was in short supply for, AVB and nearly ran out for Pochettino. If he's 8th in November, do you think he'll get the sack?
I think the fact that Spurs have given him a 4-year contract, I think that says a million words. I think that he's going to get time. I think he's going to get patience, and he needs to get time and patience from the fans. But I think he will get that from the board. But I do think it's very, very important in the next couple of weeks that he has meetings with Daniel Levy and Scott Munn and the director of football when they come in, and give his demands and say, look, we're not going to be going back to European football if we don't have these quality players in. Because as you rightly said earlier, every single time we've replaced a player, it has been of a lesser quality, and we can't keep going on like this as a football club, because 4 years ago we were in a Champions League final. You go back a little bit further, Pochettino was building a very special team at Tottenham that were challenging for the Premier League title. We're a million miles away from that right now, and we want to be watching European football at a fantastic stadium. And we need the best players. We need, you need to give the tools to the manager coming in, but him having a 4-year contract, I do think he is going to get more time than some of the others.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Chris. Great talking to you. Some real honesty there from Chris Cowlin, Tottenham